Today I am flying long haul in economy on Edelweiss, a Swiss charter and leisure airline. The journey will take us from Colombo, Sri Lanka to Zurich, Switzerland, with a stopover in the Maldives. One of the most interesting things about Edelweiss is that they operate Airbus A340s on their long-haul routes, which is what I'm gonna fly today. Due to new regulations, rising fuel costs and improvements to twin jets, the A340, with its 4 massive engines, has become quite a rare sight in recent years. But Edelweiss and its parent company Swiss are part of the Lufthansa group, which still operates quite a few of them. So let's see what the A340 experience will be like on a leisure-focused airline. The adventure begins in the Sri Lankan capital of Colombo. Good morning and welcome to the outskirts of Colombo. I am currently traveling by taxi from my hotel to Bandaraneike International Airport, or CMB, which is Sri Lanka's gateway to the rest of the world. Now, it is crucial to know that CMB Airport is located nowhere near the center of Colombo. The airport is actually much closer to the city of Negombo, a beach town situated 1 hour north of the Sri Lankan capital. And Negombo is where I spent last night. It is a small but highly developed coastal city that works well as a transit stop to and from the airport. As such, many tourists spend their first or last night in Sri Lanka here, the latter being my case. I stayed in a lovely hotel called Nebula Residence for $27 a night. It was a calm and relaxing end to my time on the gorgeous island of Sri Lanka. And here we are, welcome to CMB Airport. Opened in 1967, the airport is named after a former prime minister who was assassinated in 1959. CMB Airport today has 2 terminals, the old Terminal 1 for international flights and the newer Terminal 3 for domestic routes. Terminal 2 broke ground in 2017 and is scheduled to open in 2025. Once it's operational, all international flights will depart from here. As I am filming this in 2024, we are still using Terminal 1, which is pretty small. One thing to know is that in Sri Lanka, you have to pass a full-on security check before the check-in area. My flight today is WK68, departing Colombo at 10:05 am and arriving in Zurich at 7:20 pm. There is a 1.5 hour stopover in the Maldives where we'll get off the plane and then back on again, but more on that later. My Edelweiss experience did not start well at all. There was no online check-in for this flight, so I went to the check-in counter at the airport, and it's here where I got a negative surprise. I had selected a window seat when I booked, but for some reason they had moved me to an aisle seat. And when I told them that I wanted my window seat back, their reply was, well, too bad, the plane is full. Filming a video like this while sitting in an aisle seat is quite challenging, so I am hoping to snatch a last-minute window seat on the plane, or I'll need a very cooperative neighbor. Let's see what happens. On a positive note, check-in was pretty quick, and after passing the first security check, you don't need to do another one before passport control. There is a second check right at the gate, but we have plenty of time before boarding. So for now, it's through immigration, which was very quick by the way, and into the departure hall. And I have to say, for such an old terminal, CMB is not bad at all. There are plenty of shops and restaurants, both local and international, and everything seems calm and relatively well organized. It was around 8 am and I hadn't eaten yet, so I went to get some Sri Lankan breakfast from a food court for $11. It was really tasty, but mind you, it took them 45 minutes to prepare this meal, so don't come here if your plane leaves in an hour. The Wi-Fi at the airport was stable but very slow. After my breakfast, it was almost time for boarding and I got a glimpse of our plane from one of the concourse's windows. This A340-313 is 21 years old and one of 5 in the current Edelweiss fleet. Right now, the Lufthansa Group has a total of 36 A340s, making them by far the largest operator in the world. The A340 was built between 1991 and 2012 and originally meant to become the world's most popular long-haul aircraft. Today it is slowly being retired and replaced by more economical twin jets. Edelweiss will retire their A340s in 2025, but Lufthansa will keep theirs for a few more years. As I mentioned before, the security is done right at the gate, so after passing it, you're kind of stuck in this tiny room. As we are waiting to board, let's talk a little bit about the airline we're flying today. The company was founded in 1995 and is named after the Swiss Edelweiss flower. Today it belongs to Swiss and covers the leisure market. As such, Edelweiss flies to destinations like Colombia, Cancun or Costa Rica, but not New York or Singapore. On this particular route, they are combining Sri Lanka and the Maldives. The plane I am about to take just arrived from Zurich and will spend less than 2 hours in Colombo. It will then continue to the Maldives before flying back to Zurich. As such, passengers can get off either in Sri Lanka or the Maldives and also return to Switzerland from both destinations. Quite a clever strategy. Anyways, everything at the gate was done according to Swiss efficiency, and it was now time to head through the jet bridge onto the plane. Before we get on board, let me quickly mention today's sponsor, Level 8. It goes without saying that I travel a lot, and on the vast majority of my trips, I use a Level 8 carry-on suitcase. Level 8 has a diverse range of high-quality, sleek and rugged cases. As my travel style is quite hectic and adventurous, I need a carry-on that can deal with every type of situation, and Level 8 offers just that. Their catalog includes lightweight polycarbonate as well as top-of-the-line aluminum cases. Whether you use them in busy downtown areas, on jungle trains or airport terminals, they will be up to the job. Better still, they have lots of subdivisions and compartments as well as useful features like a TSA approved lock and power bank charging. Use the link down below to get 15% off your Level 8 purchase with my code JackRoaming15. A massive thanks to Level 8 for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to Edelweiss. We boarded the plane about 40 minutes before departure and were greeted warmly by the crew. Edelweiss has a pretty interesting layout. Their A340s have an economy class section with 10 rows at the front, and after that 27 lie-flat business class seats in the middle, and then another 28 rows in economy class at the back. My original window seat was 22 kilo, but they had assigned me 22 Juliet. Luckily, during the first leg of the journey, the plane wasn't full, so I simply moved to 23 kilo. With that sorted, let's have a look at the product. I have to say that for a 21-year-old plane, this cabin is fantastic. It was undoubtedly refurbished. The seats are modern and sleek, and they offer plenty of legroom. The headrests are adjustable, and there is a state-of-the-art entertainment system. We'll get a much closer look at that during the second flight. There are USB ports and power sockets, but no Wi-Fi. Considering that this plane just spent 10 hours in the air to get here from Zurich, it was also spotlessly clean. This is the final leg for most of the passengers here, as only about 20 new passengers boarded in Colombo. That is why the service will be very limited on this short hop to the Maldives. I did have 4 pillows to myself though. We were soon ready for an on-time departure and taxied out to the runway. We departed bang on time and were now heading west toward Malé, the capital of the Maldives. Flight time will be about 1 hour. The flight was pretty uneventful as it was the end of the journey for the vast majority of passengers. The crew members were also looking forward to spending some time in paradise as their shift will end in Malé with a fresh crew taking over. This being a holiday airline, completing the last leg of a long journey to the Maldives, everybody was in a pretty good mood. We got a glass of water and were soon approaching Malé. Velana International Airport is located on its own island, as there is no space on the super densely populated island of Malé, which is home to the nation's capital. We arrived at 11:05 am, the Maldives being 1 hour behind Sri Lanka. Upon getting off the plane, the crew told us that we would have 90 minutes here, which sounds like a decent amount of time. However, it took about 15 minutes to get to the terminal by bus and another 15 to pass the transit security check, and by the time I entered the actual transit zone, boarding had begun for the flight to Zurich. As such, I only spent about 5 minutes in this airport, so I can't tell you much about it, except that it seemed really crowded. Anyways, in no time at all, we were back on the bus, heading across the apron and returning to our A340. The good thing about remote gates is that you get amazing views of the parked planes. And here we are, back on the A340, which has been refueled and cleaned during our short stopover in the Maldives. There was also a new crew on board, and just like the first one, they were friendly, professional and fast. Unfortunately, my luck ran out when it comes to my seating arrangement. The plane was ram-packed full on this second leg, and I had to contend with the aisle seat that the airline had given me by mistake. Nothing I could do about it. We were now getting ready for departure, and luckily, my seat neighbor was kind enough to let me film the takeoff. The second flight also left on time, and after a pretty hectic stopover, I was curious to see what Edelweiss has got to offer in terms of service. Right after departure, we were handed earphones and cleaning wipes. Pillows and blankets were also provided. Just 10 minutes after reaching cruising altitude, the crew handed out a pre-lunch snack. So far, so good. They also informed us that alcoholic beverages are not included for economy passengers. Prices weren't outrageous though. About an hour after taking off, lunch was served and it was pretty delicious. There was a chicken and a vegetarian option, and I went for the chicken. It came with puree, different types of vegetables, some bread and a dessert cake. Simple but very tasty. I also have to say that the quality of the ingredients was outstanding, as you would expect from an airline based in Switzerland. The dessert cake was way too sweet for me, but that's just a matter of personal taste. So yeah, this lunch service was great. The fact that you don't get any alcoholic beverages for free feels a bit low cost for a Swiss airline, but then you don't really need alcohol with every single meal, right? Let me know down in the comments. After the meal, it was time to check out the in-flight entertainment system, which was okay. It has a decent selection of movies and TV shows, but certainly not comparable to Emirates or American. There are also standard moving maps and a few games. I ended up watching Mission Impossible, but I forgot which one. There are simply too many of those, but they're all pretty enjoyable. Like the rest of the plane, the loo was clean and the Edelweiss branded soap felt pretty upscale. Anyways, we were now over Baghdad, Iraq of all places, and I managed to get some sleep. The crew also handed out some really good bread for those who were hungry. The hours flew by and we soon entered European airspace. As we were flying over Romania, dinner was served. And I have to say that this was the biggest disappointment of this entire flight. Dinner consisted of a cold rice salad and some fruits. Don't get me wrong, it was tasty and high quality, but it just wasn't all that much, considering that this is a 10-hour flight. Edelweiss is a holiday airline and not really a full-service carrier, but I would still have expected 2 full meal services, because you don't pay low-cost prices to fly this airline. Anyways, we were soon approaching Swiss airspace and landed in Zurich at 7 PM, 20 minutes ahead of schedule. It is now time to reveal the price. I actually booked this as an award flight through the Lufthansa Miles & More app. Full disclosure, the fare included another short flight from Zurich to Frankfurt on Swiss. I paid 30,000 Lufthansa miles and 224 euros in taxes and fees. That might sound like a good deal, but the Lufthansa Group charges exorbitant fees if you book an award flight on one of their airlines. As an example, I booked a similar award flight with Turkish a couple of years ago and the taxes were only 60 euros. So, what's the cash price, you might be wondering? Well, the best deal I could find was 826 euros, which is not cheap, especially considering that Etihad offers this route for about 600 euros. Anyways, I will give Edelweiss a 6 out of 10. There is a lot to like here. The product was great and the food was high quality, but the lack of a proper dinner service and the low-cost elements of the experience prevent Edelweiss from being a really good airline. And they messed up my window seat, which was pretty annoying. And that is it for today. As always, let me know your opinion on Edelweiss and also the A340 down in the comments. Thanks very much for coming along and see you again next time. Goodbye.